You know, very often when I'm doing cards for a person, the cards will recommend that they go to therapy. Especially a big one is couples therapy. And a lot of couples that I've come across, or if I'm talking to one member of the relationship, a lot of times I come across them, and this is a main thing, or one of the main things that is recommended to them. But the thing about it is that there are some things that go along with that, because I feel like some people feel like couples counseling is something that it's not. So today we're going to talk about what it's not. I actually have a really cool list. You guys know I love a good list, and I was on what was I on? I think it might have been on Instagram, and I got us a list from Dr. Elizabeth Frederick. That is her name on Instagram. And she makes great lists, and every so often, you guys know, I'll bring you a list from one of these brilliant doctors, or one of these people that have studied this, and I'm like, ooh, this is good stuff. Okay, so today we're going to talk about this one, because I think some of you out there may need counseling, or may be going through counseling. I think it's a very common thing at this point, but a lot of couples fail. I noticed that more people do good in individual counseling than couples do in couples therapy. And some of the reasons we're getting ready to see right now. Okay, so I am QueenAusetHeru, and thank you for joining me for another wonderful edition of Ask an Aquarius. If you haven't already, please hit the red subscribe button and smack the bell. Also, if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and pass it on to everybody and anybody who might like it too. Please drop us a positive comment in the comment section. And if you want to get a reading done, my personal information is underneath this video. Please hit me up if you would like to get a reading, or if you want to send me a gift on my Amazon wish list, because you know that gifts are my love language. All of that is underneath this video, plus a whole bunch of other stuff, so please check it out. All right, guys, so I think we're ready. Let's get started. All right, let's get our list out. The first one here is couples counseling is not going to work unless you are both willing to do the work. If you're not willing to do the work in your relationship, couples therapy, going to your pastor, I don't care where you go, none of this is going to work for you, because of the fact that if you're not willing to do the work, it's not going to happen. For example, what do I mean by the work? Well, sometimes the therapist will give you guys like exercises to do, like I remember one person's exercise they were telling me about was they were supposed to make a vision board together. There was the wife, no, it was girlfriend. The girlfriend wanted to get married. The boyfriend was iffy, So the idea was to look at your future and make a vision board. What do you both collectively want to create? And this was really cool. She said they started arguing and everything. And that was the good part, because they needed to hash out what it was they wanted to do. Now, mind you, this was like 10 years ago. This couple was long since married. But the point of the matter is that this is one of the things that got them there. So these kinds of exercises are the work. Also, for example, the therapist may tell you to use a certain kind of language, or don't say certain things. Like they may say, when you fight, don't insult your partner. Don't call your partner names. And if the therapist tells you that, because that's what you're doing, you really need to stop. You need to make an effort to stop doing that. That is the work. Okay. So whatever they say, you need to try to do it, because they're giving you a diagnosis based on your behavior and what's going to help you both. Also, couples counseling is not an opportunity to blame another person, your therapist, for why the relationship isn't working. So you shouldn't be blaming your therapist or each other for why the relationship isn't working. If the relationship isn't working, it's because both of you need to work on it. Number 3, a couples counseling is not a magic wand, cure-all, or overnight fix. It's absolutely not. And for a lot of couples, especially the ones that I know who have successfully completed it and used it, it took years. So if you're in a relationship and you have some, especially if you've been with that person for a long time, the longer you've been with them and the longer you've been exhibiting dysfunctional, abusive, or toxic habits, the longer it's going to take to change that. The longer it's going to take to change that programming. So if I've been with you for 30 years and I've been calling you X, Y, and Z every time I get mad at you for 30 years, it's not going to change in 15 minutes. I'm going to have to work on that. The two of us are going to have to talk about it. So a lot of different things are not going to change immediately. None of it is going to change overnight. And like she said, it's not a cure-all or a magic wand. Next one. Couples counseling is not going to change or fix. Abusive partners. Well. So if your partner is abusive in any way, they need to get their own counseling. Okay. Now, some of us, including myself, have been in relationships with sociopaths or narcissists in the past. And some of us might have thought, maybe if we go to couples counseling, we can work this out. Because that person needs to go to therapy by themselves. And they actually may even need a psychiatrist, depending upon how bad it is. Some of the times a therapist isn't enough. So that person has to go fix themselves and then try to come back. They're not healthy enough to be in a relationship. And I see this problem with a lot of my couples. A lot of my couples, one of them or both of them are not healthy enough to be in a relationship. So not couples therapy, not, a threesome, a baby, none of these crazy things they think is going to fix the relationship is going to work if you're with somebody who's abusive. Couples counseling is not a substitute for doing your own individual therapy and healing. Exactly. You can't substitute it. You can't just say, okay, I'm going to go to couples therapy and work on myself. In any relationship where both of the people want to stay together, if one of them is abusive and the other person refuses to leave them, they're going to automatically say that each person needs to do individual therapy. The person who's abusive needs to figure out why and stop. And the person who's being abused needs to see why they're allowing it and hopefully stop as well. So they both need individual therapy and their own healing for why they're doing what they're doing. Couples counseling is not an opportunity to blame or shame your partner. I see this a lot. I was talking to a friend of mine and I was saying, like, what happened when y'all went to therapy? And she was like, dog, the whole time he was talking about things I did in the past and was crying, and just like, she didn't even get a chance to really talk. The whole session was him, and the therapist kept trying to redirect him, and the whole conversation was him talking about all the things that she's done over the past, I think they've been together like 17 years, all the stuff that she's done, and that's the whole conversation. And that's not really what it's for. Yes, you guys should talk about those things. You should definitely talk about anything and everything that is bothering you, but it's not a chance to shame and blame. Listen to the wording. Shame them is to put them down. Blame them is to put all the responsibility on them. And you shouldn't be putting them down, and all the responsibility isn't on them, because even if it was their fault, remember, your responses to them are important as well. So let's say I have a partner and my partner is tripping. How I respond to my partner's tripping is definitely part of the situation. If I respond calmly and say, okay, well, let's work on this. I know something's bothering you. That's one thing. But if I start tripping too, or worse than they are, or if I get angry, or if I do some other kind of like unproductive behavior, that's not going to help the situation. Couples counseling is not a chance to get someone on your side to help you point out all your partner's faults. Let me tell you something about this. Every couple I've ever talked to, it was never just one of them that was causing the problem. It was either one of them had a problem and the other one wasn't responding to it, in a way that was, productive. Or it was that, they both were doing it, It's never just one person. Like I said before, there are times in my life I can think back and be like, well, I was with this awful person. Well, yeah, but you the dummy. I tell myself all the time, you the dummy that was with that awful person. So you can't just put all the blame on the other person. There's accountability in every situation. Maybe you should have left them. Maybe you shouldn't have been with them. There's always accountability there, and you have to look at yourself. And this is one of the things that keeps people from healing. I have a client right now that I'm so frustrated with, y'all, because he's just refusing to see his part in the breakdown of his relationship. And I'm at the point now where I don't even say nothing no more. I just feel defeated. I just feel like, all right, okay, let me pull these cards, because he's just not acknowledging in any conversation that we have any of the stuff that he did that contributed to the breakup. And I just can't take it. So trying to get somebody on your side to point out all their faults, even if they have faults, is not going to be productive. Couples counseling is not an opportunity to project your unresolved trauma onto others. So if it's your stuff, you got to deal with yourself. Again, that's that accountability piece. Couples counseling is not only for couples who are on the edge of separation. Oh, that's another good one. Even if your relationship isn't like about to break up, it's not that desperate, but there are some issues. Let's say there are some communication issues. Let's say there's some small things going on that you would like to change. Those things go to couples therapy too. And actually, those things can enhance the relationship or keep the relationship from falling apart later on, because we all know those small things end up being big things eventually. A lot of them escalate. Let's see. Couples counseling is not a time you need to be worried about oversharing or TMI. Yeah, you really it says a time you need to be worried about oversharing or TMI. So when you go in, I think that a lot of times the therapist kind of guides. I've been to couples therapy myself a few times, and the therapist kind of guided the conversation. So I didn't like they're talking about here oversharing. They kind of guided us to what needed to be addressed, and that's what we did. So that's something, and TMI too. Because the therapist doesn't need to know every little detail. The therapist needs to know the details that are causing the conflicts, but not necessarily everything. The therapist doesn't need to know, unless, let's say, for example, you're having a sexual problem. The therapist may need to know what the problem is, but they may not need all the details. Okay? So you can say, well, my partner's sex drive is, a lot lower than mine. What should I do about that? But they don't need to know all the details of what y'all did Friday night. Okay? And the last one says, couples counseling is not something to be ashamed of or embarrassed about. This is another good one, because I know people who told me that that's the reason why they didn't even want to go. They didn't want people to know that they were seeing a therapist. They didn't want people to know. Even in individual therapy too. It's not just with couples therapy. So like this one is saying, there's nothing to be ashamed about. If you need help, you need help. If you fell down and broke your arm, most of us would not be ashamed to go to the doctor to get a cast put on it. But there are people who are ashamed to go to the doctor when they have mental health problems. And I don't think that that's good. It's basically the same thing. Something is broken, something is hurt, something needs treatment, and you go fix it. Also, everybody don't have to know your business. Why do people have to know that you and your significant other are in couples therapy? That's nobody's business but y'all's. All right, so that's our list. So if you're going to couples therapy or you're thinking about it, try to stay away from falling into those traps, because it will make your therapy, more difficult. Now we're going to take a look at some positive comments. Our first positive comment came from Maya Karen. Hey, Maya. And Maya Karen said, let me see, 100% don't like to do it, but if they got to go, they got to go. Our peace comes first. She's talking about how people always talk about how Aquarius like to ghost people. And Aquarius, we do. Not that we like it, but it does happen a lot with us. And I said that sometimes it happens for bad reasons, like the person is just callous and don't care about you. And other times it happens because, let's say you're abusive and I have to escape you, and asking for permission to escape my abuser is not a good thing. What? So sometimes you have to ghost a person. Sometimes they don't give you a choice. Sometimes they're aggressive, they're toxic, or you tell them, I don't want to see you no more, and they won't let go. So you got to do what you got to do, like she just said here. I agree 100% with that, Maya. Sometimes you got to do what you got to do, especially when it's affecting your mental health. The next message is from Nicole. Hey, Nicole. Nicole said, I agree, Queen. We all need to put our differences aside and come together. Ashe. We also need to take care of this planet. Ashe. I enjoyed this deck, the Inner Child Oracle cards. Thanks for the wonderful review. Some of the times, a lot of times, almost every day, I review a different deck. I get decks from everywhere. People give them to me. I buy some. I get them as gifts. I get them all the time. So every day I upload a deck review. So the great thing about the different decks, Oracle and Tarot decks, is that the artwork is tremendous. So please take a look at some of those videos because it's so much fun. And Nicole, thank you so much. We really do need to take care of each other and this planet. This planet, guys, is the only home we have. They might be able to terraform Mars, and there might be some other places that we could inhabit that may have oxygen, but so far this is the hottest ticket we got. Okay, it's going to take them another 200 years to terraform Mars, and some of us not going to get invited. Quite frankly, some of us not going to get invited. Some of us won't be able to afford it. A whole bunch of different things may happen with that whole Mars thing. And it's so far off, it'll be our great-great-grandchildren that will be actually able to handle it or experience it. So this is the hottest ticket we got, people. We got to take care of it. Okay? All right, guys. You come back soon because I have a lot more to say. See you later.